and welcome to the Money Marketing Podcast. I'm Kimberly Dondo, Digital Content Manager, and I'm joined again by our wonderful editorial team. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of the June issue and get a preview of July, August, I want you guys to introduce yourselves. I'm sure everyone knows you guys, but go ahead.
Mike, news editor.
Maria, features editor.
I'm Lois, chief reporter.
I'm Mamadou Moussaoui, senior reporter.
I'm Darius, investment reporter.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me again, guys. So June was quite a good month. And I think we talked a little bit briefly about, the cover issue and everything. So shall we get started with a more in-depth intro into what we covered in June? So Mamadou, if you want to go first, what did you cover in June?
Well, yeah, thank you very much, Kim. Yeah, I did the June cover issue.
Yes.
And that was on long COVID.
It was very interesting.
Yeah, it was. Oh, thank you very much. And the last podcast, we gave a kind of like a sneak peek of.
Mm-hmm.
I think we went into far too much detail.
I think so. I think so too.
No, I think it's just because it was such an interesting topic. I actually kept asking you more and more questions, which you were like, well, if I refer back to my article that I just wrote, because you had so many references from that. That was my bad. I'm sorry, but it was just such an interesting topic.
I think that was, and as Louis, has rightly pointed out, I think we went into details. I don't know whether this will be a repetition of what we, said previously.
Yeah.
But it was a very good piece, and it's kind of like focuses on people who suffers, from long COVID,
mm-hmm.
and the challenges they face trying to make a claim, for their conditions. So. The source of the article was from a long COVID sufferer called Nick Mitchell. She was part of the sector, the financial service sector, and in 2019, mm-hmm. she was diagnosed, with COVID. So she was one of the early, people who kind of like contracted the virus.
Mm-hmm.
Should we say virus or?
Yeah, it was a virus.
Yes, in December 2019, and she's been suffering, ever since, And
it's crazy to think like now we're in 2023 and she's still feeling the effects. I couldn't imagine.
Exactly. And she's one of 2 million people, so that's a large number of the UK population. I think it's 3% of the UK population that kind of like suffer, from this long-term illness. And they're out of work, So I was basically trying to get as much information, as possible concerning, her claims and her conditions. And then I spoke to, people in the sector, insurers, medical doctors. But with long COVID, since it's a new condition, it's very difficult to kind of pin down. It seems like a moving target. It seems like a moving target. And then there is no consensus yet, with the medical, sector, whether to call it a condition, whether to call it a health, issue. So I think that's the challenge, for people trying to make a claim, and the only way they can make claim for somebody with a CI policy, because she didn't have, IP, which is income protection, policy. If she had income protection policy, that would have been easy. They would just pay. But because she was trying to claim on a CI policy, which is critical illness, it's very difficult. That's a very high bar. To kind of like face. She has to prove that she was permanently disabled, and that's very difficult to kind of prove, So when she made a claim with Aviva, her claim was, declined, because the insurer was saying she could not prove, that she was totally and permanently disabled.
Yeah, and I guess that is like one of those things where, unfortunately, she has to wait to prove that.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what the insurance is basically saying, because they haven't got the data yet. I mean, to prove that this is a permanent condition, even though she had all this awful, conditions, like fatigue, brain fog, kidney issue, lungs issue, and other stuff, But it's very difficult to say. I mean, all those conditions, I mean, in total, can be considered as, permanent disability, So I know.
So weird. I just find it bizarre to me because if she's having like kidney issues and fatigue and it's been going on for a prolonged amount of time, doesn't that constitute?
But that's the point with the TPD, and that's what we are even trying to campaign with money marketing and the sector, to see whether they can review, because with TPD, total, the TPD means total permanent disability, and the assessment, but it's not based on any medical condition. The assessment is based on you proving, with the medical evidence beyond doubt that you are disabled, you are totally permanently disabled, And that's very that's very hard, That's very hard to prove, And it's and as the doctor said, it's very hard to find a doctor that will tell you that this condition is totally and permanent disability, except kind of like urological, conditions, Those are the ones. Yeah, doctors can say, like somebody who had it. A spine.
They have brain damage.
Exactly, brain damage,
spinal injury.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the challenge for her, because she's also very vocal online. She writes and all that stuff and comments. And they said based on her activities online, she can still do her job, as a former peer, because she was a former PR, executive, so.
Right.
So yeah, it's.
But what about, they're not taking into account the brain fog, the days of crippling anxiety and depression she might be facing?
Yeah, exactly. Especially that massively affects writing ability. It's not just sort of physically laborious jobs that are affected. It definitely affects writing. That sort of.
But I think people still have that mentality where if you have like an office job or something, like a job that just requires you to be on a laptop, they're like, you can do that. Like that's not difficult work. You can still do that regardless of your disability, which I think, as much as we've like come in strides in terms of like mental health awareness, I still think that there's people that will be like, you can fight through it.
Exactly, and that's a good point. And that's the point. She was also very angry. For them to say, just because she's active online, she can do her job when
she's active online campaigning for her cause.
Exactly, and she said she spent almost half a day, in bed, because of the pain, she's going through, and all the medication. She has to take, So yeah.
I feel for her, and I really do hope there is a result. Does she still pay? Like, I'm just curious. Does she still pay into? Like, if you've tried to make a claim and they've refused you, do you still pay into your insurance?
Yes, she still keep the policy. She still because she's. She took the policy in 1994.
Okay.
Yeah, so but it's a long time ago. She took the policy.
Is that not also bad PR for what is already bad PR in the insurance industry, as people who don't want to pay out, and they're always like, but we love paying out. We always want to pay out.
No, well, based on my experience with her and other people, I did a weekend essay saying the sector, has a claims problem, and there was so much conversation based on that piece where people kind of like, share their experience, with the sector, that the claims, the claims handling process is, it's awful, it's terrible, what people have to go through. And in the delay, people have to wait for a long time, just to get their claims, paid, So I think,
jumping through so many hoops, and tell you like, you need this protection. Imagine if this happens to you, and then to think about, and that's why people are so skeptical about actually getting it, because they're like, will I get the money if the worst outcome does happen?
Exactly, and that's the point I raised, on my weekend essay, because many people are saying, this insurance, they're kind of seeing like, kind of like uncaring and very greedy, kind of like, for new business, it's very fast, when you want to, buy a new insurance, it's quick. The process is easy, but when you want to claim, it takes forever. It's slow, and it's difficult, So, and that's something I think we want to campaign on, money marketing. Because I spoke to, Kevin Carr, about that, Kevin Carr seems to be kind of like the unofficial spokesman, for the sector, So, we had
bridge.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a chat there. Something, has to be done.
Yeah,
you have to make the claims. Yeah, make the claims process. At least faster.
Yeah. Well, I hope we have a follow up on this and there's more positive news. But we have delved into that quite a lot again. So I'm going to move on to Maria. So can you tell me a bit about what you covered in June?
Well, I wrote a leader last month that went in the
Yay, exciting.
And yeah, it was basically sort of something caught my eye from a few months ago. We've got a piece in our financial advisor to be section. We have a diary of an aspiring advisor column. It's basically a diary that follows financial advisors on their path to qualification. And it was a bit of a shocker when I read it, because I'd been reading her journey so far and she was so positive and enthusiastic, and I just loved reading her story. And then suddenly this one was about her pulling back from training to be an advisor and why she was quitting. She was actually quitting. And so I was really interested to read, actually, I'll tell you a quote from it. As a self-employed IFA, I felt pressure to put myself in front of groups with more disposable income than I had, pushing product sales and basically helping the rich to get richer. I thought that was just really bold and brave comment to come out with. And I just thought it was really sad that we were losing, or advice was losing, someone like her who had so much enthusiasm and passion, and it sounded like she was going to be an excellent financial advisor, but she just couldn't get past this sales pressure. And actually, I was surprised, because I thought that was, I don't know if it was naive of me to think so, but I thought that was a thing of the past. I thought we were kind of overcoming that sales pressure. So to hear that it was still rife and actually putting people off, I thought I'd look into it further. So I spoke to a few other young advisors. Thankfully, they didn't really have the same experience. And I think it mainly came down to just the company that you were with. But I think that does come down to luck. And I think they were just lucky that they've ended up at companies that don't have kind of culture. Because funnily enough, since the piece was published, I've had a few people get in touch saying that their experience had been the same. And basically my conclusion was, as a young, wannabe advisor, how are you to know what's right or wrong when you're looking at companies to take you on in those early stages? It's hard enough to find a placement or a role that will enable you to train as well. So how do you know what's right and wrong in terms of culture? Basically my conclusion was, we can't afford to lose any more recruits. We've really got to address this toxic culture, because we need this fresh blood in the industry so much. It's concerning that that's what's happening.
It is quite sad that someone would pull back because their role wasn't as advertised, but I feel like that does happen probably in like loads of different professions, where you go in thinking you're going to be doing one thing and then you might be bogged down by paperwork or whatever it might be, or you might be told to push more products than when you thought you'd be speaking to clients and helping them more. And that's terrible. I hope like the business that she was with reevaluates the way they do things.
Yeah, I think there was, which I could have looked into further as well, but the word count didn't really permit it. But I think there was also a case for how she mentioned she was self-employed, and that came out with other people I spoke to. And I think advisors join businesses on like more and more now. I think it's happening that you join, or that you become self-employed within this wider business structure. So you're responsible for your business, and you're responsible for your commissions isn't the right word, but your income, I guess. And I think maybe there is higher pressure there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, even having written for this industry for over a decade now, I think I was really surprised to hear that was the case. So I'd have gone into the industry not thinking that I'd have sales pressure. That would have been a real big surprise to me. So yeah, it was interesting, and I'm sure there's lots more to come from it. Maybe I'll follow up at some point. But yeah, interesting to see that I've had people come to me since saying that this was their experience as well. I don't know. Maybe I'm just really naive. Maybe everyone knows it.
No, I wouldn't have thought. That's when I've spoken to some advisors, they never really tell me that that's an aspect of their job, right? They're talking about so much about their clients and what they're doing for their clients, but they're never like sell.
I thought that was a thing of the past as well. Definitely from what I've sort of
and like conferences as well. They speak about how that's a thing of the past, don't they?
Well, regulation-wise, I guess it is. Commissions being gotten rid of pretty much. Yeah, I think the FCA are really clamping down on that side of things, or want to be seen to be clamping down on that side of things. But yeah.
And I wonder with firms like that how they'll be able to work around if their whole thing is like sell, how they'll be able to work around the implementation of consumer duty when it comes to that.
Which is this month.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, it is.
Good point, Kim.
Exciting.
So exciting. I've never been so excited in my entire life. You can probably tell from my voice.
Yeah. It's
what's your saying, Lois? That's not very consumer duty.
Not very consumer duty of you. It's not really mine. I didn't coin it. It's like a meme that's going around Twitter.
Just take it, Lois.
Take the credit.
Put your name on it.
So Lois, what about you? What did you cover in June?
So I wrote the Meets interview with Tracy Vegro from CISI, not CSI. Chartered Institute for Securities and Investment. There you go.
Okay.
So she became CEO about 6 months before I interviewed her, which must have been back in March. And then I wrote up the interview for the June issue. And she had a lot of really interesting things to say. So she's been, I think when I spoke to her, she was saying she'd sort of completed the set in a way by joining CISI because she worked for government in Whitehall. And then she worked at a regulator, the law regulator. And now she's gone into a professional body. So she's kind of brought her experience from policy and regulation into CISI, which is quite interesting. And she was giving insights on all my favorite things: diversity, ESG, and yeah, she said was very interesting. You should go and read it.
Yeah,
I think I said quite a lot about it last episode of the podcast as well. But she was saying some interesting things like that COP28. Do you know COP, Conference of the Parties, coming up in November? It's going to be in Dubai. And she was saying that's a huge opportunity because obviously ESG and responsible investing is massively rising up the agenda, and advisors are really having to get to grips with it because the FCA is pushing it a lot to try and cut out greenwashing. They're launching these sustainability labels. So it's something that advisors are really going to have to be on top of. And quite a lot of certainly the older, like the sort of older guard advisors are saying, well, my clients never ask about ESG, so I don't really see why it's of interest to me. But they should be sort of.
But you're the advisor, so you should
exactly.
Be advising
they should be
them
flagging
on
it
why.
up with their clients rather than waiting for them to ask about ESG, because most clients aren't going to say, yeah, I'm really interested in ESG, because lots of lay people don't even know what ESG is. But
exactly,
a lot of people are very interested in the climate and social issues and governance issues. So yeah, no, it was an interesting one.
I find it interesting that COP28 will be in Dubai. I don't know, just it just feels like just those two
made all their money from oil.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. Right?
I know.
How many of those deals will be like, yeah, okay, you can do what you want, but just don't look at my business and my company and what we're doing.
Yeah. It will be an interesting one. I think they're using, so they had a big conference in Dubai last year or the year before, and they're using the same venue for COP. So I really want to go. Mike, can I go and cover it for Money Marketing? Actually,
that's a nice venue. That's a nice.
It depends on the time of year. I do not want to go when it is 40 degrees, but I will go any other time.
I think it'll be all right. November.
But
Okay.
I'm sure they have very state-of-the-art air conditioning there, though. So
They do, but it literally means you can't leave indoors. You have to be indoors the whole time. It's unbearable to be outside.
40 degrees is too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I like a nice
dry
25 degrees. That's good for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I enjoyed interviewing Tracy. We went up to Sky Garden
Ooh.
and looked out over the city,
That's nice.
and then had our photo shoot there before the interview. It was very nice.
It's very nice. Okay, cool. So what about you, Darius? What did you cover in June that you want to shout out?
With a magazine, Michael and I, we wrote up MMI leads, and
Oh my God, it feels like such a long time ago. It's only like a month and a half ago.
I agree. It does feel a lot longer than that, but yeah.
And my birthday. And my birthday.
It was
Of
your
course.
birthday. We could not forget.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Was it Billy Burrows announced that, didn't he, Lois, on the day before?
Yeah, he did.
Talk?
Yeah, I'm gonna love him forever for that.
Yeah. So there we go. Yeah. But yeah. No, that's what. For the magazine, that's what Mike and I. Mike and I worked together on that. Yeah. And obviously, a lot of topics were raised during that day. I think sort of the senior advisor from FCA, Dr. Lisa Lovedale, just towards the end of the day, but I thought it was an interesting talk. And also one thing she said that definitely stuck out to me, I wrote about it, but it stuck out to me anyways, that she was not the FCA, but in a personal capacity, she was suing Meta, or formerly Facebook, because obviously she's talking about big tech, so that sort of came into her talk as well. But one point she made is that the FCA doesn't actually regulate big tech firms, so they don't have to follow FCA rules that come under its purview as such. So she did want to clarify that, but then she also was talking about the explosion of AI and saying that the company use of AI is more than doubled from like 30 to 70%, and a lot of it is chatbots. But AI definitely is a driving trend within companies at the moment. So yeah, I thought it was very interesting to hear from her. And obviously, as we just mentioned, Billy Burrows spoke. Dubbed the father of annuities, but he spoke about annuities as well. That was interesting how they make a bit of a comeback, because he said, during Brexit and the pandemic, it didn't really help the annuity market, but now it's starting to sort of on its way back, claw back. He said, and there's one good thing about them. He thought is there's no investment risk, and many clients like annuities as it gives them peace of mind and security. So was it Rory Albon from Lyndhurst, financial manager?
Yes.
Financial planning. You talk about cash flow planning, and sort of the emotional side of advisors. And he said, cash flow planning is meant to help advisors, not go supersede them. And he said, as an advisor, he sort of provides the emotional side of things as well. And that, talk about AI and, all this, fear of replacement. So, you give an example, like Google can't replace advisors on occasion when a client wants to know if it's a good time to invest in a sort of a niche area, like VCTs, or venture capital trust, sorry. And so this is when an advisor becomes vital, because that's when you have to, talk to someone and get their opinion on, is it a good time? The economic climate is now, should I be looking into this? So he said that's when
they'll ever be replaced. Like, as much as we talk about like AI replacing people, I think at the end of the day, we're social beings. We want to be reassured by something, and I don't think AI has the capability to tell you you're doing good. You're doing great, sweetie. It can't do that yet. No. When it can do that, then we're all done. because then I'll use AI to give me my positive affirmations that I've always wanted. But moving on, I think we'll move on to Mike. How has your June been?
My June been good. Been busy. Didn't have anything in the June mag, but I wanted to bring up a piece by Amanda, if I may. Obviously, pension. So, yeah, Amanda wrote a really interesting piece about can pension saving be compatible with retirement saving, and it sort of drew kind of my eye for a number of reasons. Number one, it's pensions, but number two, in the UK, and as Amanda's piece sort of makes clear, that a kind of key part of the assumption in the UK pension system is people will own their own place by the time they come to retire. But with kind of some trends and the cost of living and stuff, it's been a known a fact, I think, statistically, that the number of that home ownership has been declining for a while. Number one, and number two, the average age of homeowners has been going up. So, and when you take the fact that with the pension freedoms, that has put the responsibility of retirement from the state to the individual. You've got a bit of an interesting problem, and Amanda's piece looks at how it might be solved. And in Europe, she talks about Germany and Switzerland, particularly Germany. The percentage of renting is higher than here, and the culture is different. But you have stronger kind of more affordable rents. You have stronger, I think, tenant rights, and also they mandate that Germans have to pay more into the state pension as a percentage of their tax. So that's the way they get around it. Not a perfect system, but kind of Amanda was exploring how possible that is in the UK, and it's just really kind of quite quite interesting. And something like kind of culturally and financially, it's a very different. What I take from it, that Germany, that sort of the whole approach to kind of property and whether you own it or not is just very, very different. And plus, like, Germans are told to save more into their state pension, and in our culture we're a bit more, I think we're a bit more, always been a bit more individualistic. Like, we don't like being told what to do so much. So that's kind of quite an interesting sort of. So if it was to change here, it would have to change not just financially, but kind of maybe a bit psychologically as well. So that was quite interesting.
I always found when I was in Korea, I found one aspect of, like, they have a high rental market as well. Most people rent there, and I found it interesting that, like, the deposit that you pay to your landlord is legally not allowed to use that deposit for anything. What they have to do is put it into investments on behalf of their tenant. And then once their tenant leaves, I think the tenant will get their deposit back. And then I think the landlord gets whatever accumulated from that. Like, that's their payment.
Investment growth.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought, like, that could be also an interesting thing. That could also work towards, helping for your retirement, because when you're putting in it's called a key deposit, so it's quite a substantial amount. It's like half the year's rent, basically. So yeah, that could be.
That probably really encourages people to stay in with that landlord for a long time, then, if they've got investment.
Too. Yeah.
Or encourages the landlord to keep them.
Exactly. Exactly, and make more money.
The whole point of investment is it is long term, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's like a beneficial thing on both ends. But because I don't know when I don't know where I'm gonna settle. That's the only thing.
No, same.
Next year I might be in Guatemala. Who knows? Okay, but let's move forward to our July-August issue. Who is writing the cover feature for this one? I'm not quite sure. Mike, are you okay?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine.
You seem quite, like, overwhelmed by the idea of writing a cover feature.
Yeah, no, I wrote the cover. No, it was.
How long has it been since you've written the cover feature?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think it was maybe actually last October. when I read and it was on the similar on cyber. No, I wrote the cover feature for July about cyber, looking at sort of how prepared sort of financial advisors are, or how good their cybersecurity is. And through writing that, I discovered that I think there's a tendency for the bigger firms to be better prepared than the smaller ones. I think that's quite interesting. And I also discovered that my personal cybersecurity could be quite a lot better.
I was going to say, as the least, not that you're not tech savvy, but you're the least.
I'm on the
you
lower
don't
end
love
of the tech
technology
savvy.
that much.
No, I like it when it works. I like it when I can get into things. And I like it when I remember my passwords.
It has its uses.
As its uses, yeah. But it's a tool. I've never been a massive tech kind of guru or tech whiz. But it was just interesting how the point that was made to me was that other areas of the UK, whether it be the NHS or who were some of the big ones, whether it be the NHS or various institutions have been or British Airways have been hacked over the years. And it's just a matter of time before a big advice firm happens to a big advice firm. And recently, for some reason, there have been quite a few big hacks in Canada of some sort of mutual fund providers and some big names like Franklin Templeton over in Canada. And Ian McKenna was just, he travels to Canada and the States a lot, says that in the States they're much more on it. At least the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, recently passed a law which mandates advisors to not only take responsibility for their own cyber security, but that of third parties. And what was very salient in the examples of the hacks in Canada was that the hack came from through a third-party provider company that these financial businesses were using.
Oh, so they piggybacked.
And got into because they were using. So there was this thing called Go Anywhere, which is like a tool, I think, based in the cloud, and it's sort of like a data tool. And then there was this digital data company which was using Go Anywhere to sort of do all the documents for the like Canadian financial services firms. So it was like hackers compromised Go Anywhere tool, which is being used by a third party.
So it was like a Trojan horse essentially.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, there you go. You know better than me. Although I think maybe
I just know the one.
Ransomware actually, but anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to find out, read the cover. But that was just quite interesting. And Ian was saying that the FCA, it would be wise if the FCA kind of did follow the SEC, because the FCA is quite sort of tech savvy as far as regulators go in other ways. But this is maybe an area which it shouldn't be overlooking. So yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, if I was a cyber hacker and I wanted to steal a lot of money, I would definitely target a big financial advice firm because they have a lot of people with a lot of money that I could steal. I'm not going to do that though, just to be clear.
Yeah.
I think because they want money quickly, normally they try and go for like hospitals, because if they hold a hospital hostage, they're more likely to get money. Whereas I feel like you said, like financial services companies, especially the bigger ones, they have a lot of money, which means that they have like a big cybersecurity team. Like I have a cousin in South Africa who works for a bank. I think it might be Investec or something. And she works in their cybersecurity division, and there's like a whole team of them because they have the funds to invest in that. Whereas I feel like, for example, the NHS isn't like, not that I'm saying that their cybersecurity is not going to be great, but I feel like they're not going to have like the top graduates who know exactly what is out there.
Ian told me this amazing story. I should have included it in the cover, but I didn't. But there's an urban legend. I don't know if it's true, but apparently there was an advice firm once which hired a cleaner, and the cleaner was found to be reading like client statements or like suitability reports. And when they were asked about it, the cleaner said, "Oh, I'm just trying to improve my English."
Oh, that's amazing.
So that's amazing. So that's an amazing. I know that's true. That's an amazing story. So I just love that. I just laugh. So just if you're in the office after hours and you see it, cleaner, like, and so to set up a cleaning service company, target and an advice firm, and then if there are any loose documents, which is, it sounds like, but it sounds like a way in there, like it would be through the cleaning. So I'm just improving. I'm just my English. So
we're giving people bad ideas now.
Yeah,
that's a nice mea culpa.
There was someone, this guy I went to school with, and he was at my 18th birthday party, and he got put in prison for, I don't know what the credit card company was, but he hacked into it and committed credit card fraud and stole millions of pounds.
Oh, millions.
Yeah.
Jeez. Wow.
You just have these things though, like literally someone's in their bedroom, they're in their bedroom, or like the garage.
And he was like the person you'd least expect as a criminal. Definitely. It was so weird. He must have got absolutely torn apart in prison.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sad.
I would take those millions and just run to a country that I can't be extradited from. But
you've thought about this, Kim.
Oh yeah, I have. I have several
several backup options.
Every possibility I have a plan for. But Maria, what do you have that's coming up in July that you want to highlight?
Well, nothing for myself, but we've got some good comment pieces in next month. I won't give too much away, but Chris Budd, who's a new columnist for us, so he's doing a regular piece. So I believe his first piece will be in that magazine. And then Andy Hart from Humans Under Management. Actually, a few weeks ago, they had a little bit of a online spat through their individual columns on our site. So they've got some interesting points. So yeah, I've put them next to each other. They're not actually arguing this time, but yeah, both strong opinions and really good writers. So they'll be good. Shelley McCarthy from Informed Choice is doing a piece about whether clients should invest or pay off their mortgage at the moment, which is kind of an age-old question, but I think might be the answer to that is it has been changing quite a lot recently. So that's interesting. And I think as financial advisors, not particularly mortgage advisors, it would be hard for them to admit that perhaps it's time to look at the mortgage side of things instead of investing. But an interesting piece nonetheless. And there's some great pieces by Amanda as always. But yeah, I'll let you read it.
Yeah. And what about you, Mamadou? Is there anything you want to highlight for July?
Yes, that's correct. I mean, I did the Money Marketing Meets. Yeah, with Aviva's UK Live CEO, Doug Brown. Yeah. Well, he says a lot about his life. I mean, his journey, from Canada, from Winnipeg. That's where he came from. Yeah, from Winnipeg, and his career journey from Canada Life, AIG, and now to Aviva, So we have a very interesting conversation, and I would say read it in July.
That's going to be our tagline from now on. Read it.
Just read it.
Just for yeah. But yeah, good chat with him. Yeah, it was fun. Nice guy.
Yeah. And what about you, Darius? What do you have coming up in July that you're excited about?
What as in a magazine, sorry, Kim, or
magazine or something that you're looking into online? What's going on? What are you going on holiday?
I am actually, but that's not really that relevant. But yeah, I do have I've got some good meetings lined up that I'm sort of looking forward to. I think with Castlefields, where I'll be talking to a fund manager and an advisor, and I think that'd be from the same company. I think that'd be quite interesting as well to see how the relationship is between those two. Obviously, work for the same company, but how it's they overlap when when working and talking to people. And also, I'm pretty sure Castlefields were with the Money Marketing Awards. They were named as think it was an ESG provider. I think is a finalist in that category. I can't quite remember, but yeah, they did get a. They've been shortlisted in one of our categories. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, and seeing a relationship between those two. Yeah.
Oh, and it'll be your first time chairing some of our Money Marketing Awards panels. What do we call it? For the shortlist. Yeah. So that's what we'll be covering. Most of the entire editorial team will be getting bogged down with Money Marketing Awards stuff. So that's exciting.
Indeed.
Yeah. And if you haven't and you want to, book a table now. And also we have Money Marketing Interactive London coming up. So make sure to book your tickets because the team has been hard at work making sure that the sessions are all up to date and fun and interesting. So I would definitely say get your ticket now if you haven't done so already. But that's my plug. Also get the magazine, subscribe to the magazine if you haven't. End of plug.
So professional, Kim.
Thanks.
So good.
It's so seamless.
Thank you. And we'll wrap up with Lois. So what is there that you want to highlight for July?
Before I do, can I plug myself and say that I won an award in June?
Of course. That's exciting. Congratulations.
I won Next Gen Planner's Financial Journalist of the Year award, which I was very surprised about because I was up against some very, very good journalists. But I was very excited to win.
Like, they didn't put in as much as work as you did in the last year.
Well, obviously, no one's as good as I am, but until now, no one recognized that. So
you were getting all the exclusive, all the news. I don't know what the other people are doing. Exactly. I don't even know the other people. I've never heard of them.
No, they were very good as well. But I was really excited to win. It was really nice.
Congratulations.
Even if we did all go out after the awards ceremony, and one of the advisors, who I won't name because I don't want to embarrass him, I thought he'd lost my award at the bar.
Oh dear.
But luckily, Dan from Next Gen saved it. So thank you, Dan.
But why were you not holding on to your award, Lois?
I tried. He was like, no, I'm looking after this for you. It's like, clearly not very well.
So in future, don't trust this person.
You don't know who he is, but don't trust him. Anyway, no, it's really fun. It was a very fun night. Anyway, but for the July issue, I worked on the In Focus feature on ESG. So I looked into ESG ratings and whether advisors should use them. They're a fairly new thing still, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, ESG is rising up the agenda for advisors. So I did a podcast interview with a guy called Lee Coates, who you might know from ESG Accord, but he's been in the sort of ESG and responsible investing space for a long time. I think he launched a specialist ESG advice firm way before ESG was as sort of well known as it is now. So he's been in the space for a long time. But he was talking about ESG ratings, and it's quite interesting because I think most people would assume an ESG ratings agency would rate funds or companies based on their impact on the environment. But it's actually like a minefield, the space, because some of them rate like ESG regulations impact on companies or like climate change's impact on companies, and other ones rate companies or funds impact on the environment. So it's also obviously quite subjective unless you're literally measuring something like carbon emissions from a company. That's an objective fact. So you can sort of compare those, but quite a lot of ESG, especially like the social stuff, is quite subjective. So it's basically just a group of people in a room deciding, like putting a number on how good they think a company or a fund is socially. And so unless the advisor like gets the minutes of the meeting, Lee was saying this on the podcast I did with him, so you should definitely listen to that. It was really interesting. He says it a lot better than I'm saying it now. But unless the advisor like goes and gets the minutes of the meeting and knows exactly how that ratings agency has rated different funds and goes through it all with their client, which is a very long, laborious process. Lee said maybe steer clear of ESG ratings, or like use them as a sort of baseline, but don't rely on them and assume that because a fund has got a really good ESG rating, it's really good ESG fund. So yeah, it was an interesting one. And you should read it, because I don't want to say any more than this.
I feel like your financial advice is Greta Thunberg.
I take that as a compliment. Thank you.
It is a compliment, because you're like waving the flag for like the environment and making people more aware of these things. So yeah. I think that's a positive thing.
Yes,
it's definitely. Only people like, I don't know, Trump and Andrew Tate who have beef with her.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you didn't say I was like the financial advice sector's Trump. That would have been
that would
the worst thing to ever be said about me.
You'll be indicted in a couple of years. Anyway,
but yeah, it was a good. Sorry, can I just say one more thing? Because I wrote a leader as well on financial psychology, which I really love psychology. I think it's really interesting. I did it for A-level, as I say in my leader. It was sort of between that and English literature, but I chose English literature for uni. But it was very close with psychology. And so before I joined money marketing, I didn't really consider that financial psychology was a thing, but it's a really interesting area. And advisors would say, well, of course we look at why our clients behave the way they do. But if you really dig into it, it's very. I really need to find alternatives to the word interesting. Someone help me out here.
Fascinating.
It's a fascinating area, financial psychology.
Yeah.
And so you should definitely read my leader as well. If you're only going to read 2 things from the July issue, make it my leader and my in focus.
Oh,
thank you.
Skip right over Mike's feature. Wow.
Exactly. Mike's cover, my MM
and Okay.
But I'm not arrogant. I'm very humble.
This is how she won Financial Journalist. Plugging herself like this.
I tried to be humble, but it hurts to pretend.
That's bad. That's bad.
It's a lyric for you there. Anyway, sorry, I'm done.
Okay. Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you guys as always, and I hope to speak to you later on in the month of July as we look into what we have to look forward to in August and probably for the rest of the year. So thank you for joining me today, guys.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. Well done.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. Thank you.